I thought it was interesting last night. The depth and the level that we saw swing through that lineup. And you know what? It has almost become regardless of the opponent. We saw this the other night against the Nuggets. By the way, apparently yesterday I said that they lost to the Nuggets. They beat the Nuggets. But my point in that game is the same point that I have in the game last night. That there is a significant issue with the Jazz when it comes to offense. Rudy Gobert is a fine defensive player. He showed that last night against New Orleans. The block shots, the dominance in the paint, really intimidating Zion Williamson for, I think, maybe the first time in Zion's career we watched him get intimidated in the paint, because that's something we hadn't seen in the past.
Right.
But if you look at the way this team is playing offensively, there is a real hole in their game. And there is a real problem when this team is almost exclusively reliant on the three ball. You're getting very little, finishing at the rim. Jordan Clarkson, he's going to come off the bench and never pass. You look at the way Donovan Mitchell's been playing lately, and what have you seen him doing? You're watching Donovan Mitchell drive for the only purpose of throwing that ball back out to the three-point line to, last night it was Bogdanovich. But you're watching him consistently do this now because they're so reliant on the three ball to win. And Jake, I think it really is a death trap for that basketball team.
Yeah, and I think it's a side effect of today's NBA. I look at other teams that play this way, and I look at what was the James Harden Rockets, and that's how they played. They had a lot of they led the league in shooting threes as a squad, and so I look at the Jazz, and I say to myself, the difference here is that the Rockets were built to do that. The Rockets ran that offense specifically with that goal in mind, and specifically with the goal in mind to get up and down. Whereas the Jazz are only running that offense because they don't have another choice. They don't have other options offensively to get the job done. Donovan Mitchell is literally the only guy on that team who at any time, no matter who the defender is, can get his bucket whenever he wants to. Jordan Clarkson, yes, he can score a little bit, but he can be had defensively. And overall, I look at the rest of the roster and I say, okay, cool. Bogdanovich can shoot a little bit. Joe Ingles can shoot a little bit. You have other guys on the team that contribute here and there, but you don't have a balanced roster right now. And I'm watching this game last night, and I know that I tend to be negative about Rudy Gobert, but it just stands out so much lately, and now that he has the contract, it really kind of magnifies it. It's like, dude, you missed a wide-open layup last night. Zion Williamson, I actually kind of disagree. Yes, Zion early in the game faced some adversity against Rudy Gobert. He had to figure out how he was going to beat Rudy Gobert's length, and then he did that, which is he went to the body just like he does on everybody else. He straight up threw Derek Favors down the paint. I don't know how many people saw that, but Zion Williamson absolutely just sent homie down the paint out of bounds. The guy just went for a ride. And then I look at how he played against Rudy Gobert and I say, hey, this guy is strong. He's shorter by a lot than Gobert, and he's still getting his buckets. He's still. Yeah,
but this is the same thing I always say about Zion. That's cool. He gets his buckets, but how many buckets did he get blocked at the rim? How many times did he choose not to shoot? He got a traveling call because he couldn't get the ball off his hand because Gobert was going to block it. It's cool. Everybody wants to show the highlight where he shoulders Favors out of the way. Derek Favors is not young Derek Favors anymore. Derek Favors is not 25-year-old Derek Favors anymore. To me, that's not that impressive. This is why I say everybody always gets a boner over dunks in the NBA. If you're in the NBA, you should be able to dunk, unless you're Steph Curry, and then you can't. If you're Zion Williamson, you should be able to dunk. That is not impressive anymore. Him shouldering guys out of the way is not impressive anymore. Do something other than dunk a basketball, right? And then when you try to go to the basket and dunk on the best rim protector in the NBA, which Rudy Gobert is, you get shut down.
Right, but then after that, that's what you're missing. After that, all that happened. He made adjustments in the game. And my point is...
What adjustments did he make?
Did you watch this?
I watched every minute of that game.
Dude, he started going to the body on Rudy Gobert and moving him and getting his buckets. There were several layups that he battled Gobert and won the matchup. Right?
I would point out that they lost by 16 points.
That may be true. Yeah.
No, it's not maybe true. The Jazz beat the Pelicans 118 to 102 last night. The Pelicans got blown out. I am not impressed with Zion Williamson's performance. And like Tony Jones of The Athletic was tweeting about how he might be a generational finisher, Zion Williamson. Hey, he might be a generational finisher. Yeah, that might be true. The guy cannot shoot a basketball.
And I agree with that.
He can dunk, and he can make a layup. That's his game. He doesn't have a turnaround fadeaway J.
That's true.
He doesn't have, like, it's been 1 year since Zion Williamson debuted in the NBA. He's the exact same player. In fact, I would take a step back from that. He's not as versatile as he was. He made 4 threes in a row on his debut night, if anybody remembers that. Like, his game has not gotten better, and I wish people understood this. I understand he's a physical specimen. He's 5'3" and 285 pounds. I get it. He's like a physical freak, Zion Williamson. Can jump out of the gym. It is akin to Lamar Jackson. This is all great that you're really fast and you can run. At some point, you got to stand in the pocket and deliver the football. At some point, Zion Williamson is going to have to develop a skill that requires more than dunking a basketball. Because you can isolate him and you can beat them. Because he is very limited. So I'm not that impressed with Zion Williamson's performance. I don't know. You're saying I'm being too harsh?
No, you're missing, I think, the overreaching point, which is, cool, let's rip Zion and say that he doesn't have the skill set, which, by the way, I agree with. You got to be able to shoot. This is the same conversation we have with, like, Giannis, in that same breath. But the point here is that even though Zion is really limited, he still caused chaos. He still did a lot for that team last night. And by the way, I would remind you, they got that lead down to like 12, and they were down 25. So, they didn't almost win, but they did come back.
I think the NBA is a league of runs. There's no doubt about that. All of this to say, the Jazz are incredibly reliant, in my opinion, on the three ball. They shot 47 threes last night.
It's ridiculous.
21 of 47 from three. And granted, they made them. They shot 45% from three. That's pretty good. I look at Donovan Mitchell being 4 of 7. That's great. I look at the fact that, Mike Conley is 1 of 5, but he has 10 dimes. I look at Rudy Gobert going 13 and 18. No, he didn't take a three, though, by the way.
Right.
One of Rudy Gobert was 1 of 6 from the free throw line. Right? They had 3 starters shoot a free throw.
Yeah.
What should that tell you?
They don't go to the paint.
They don't go to the paint. Right? And again, I just ask, why is Royce O'Neal playing 35 minutes?
Because they don't have anybody else. They don't have anybody else.
Yeah.
Who is going to play instead of him? I'd
be playing Joe. I'd be starting Joe Ingles. Yeah. Joe is a good defender, as is Royce O'Neal. I just look at Royce O'Neal. He is on most nights really just a zero factor. He'll give you 2 of 7 from 3. He isn't driving to the basket effectively and finishing. He's not a guy that rebounds. He's not a guy that gives you dimes.
He plays defense. That's what he does.
That's it.
Yeah.
And in this league, you need more than that. I look at the fact that Jordan Clarkson can't start because all he does is shoot.
Right.
He comes off the bench, gives you offense, that's it. This team is incredibly limited. And I think one of the things that if you're a Utah Jazz fan, you're going to have to come around to the fact that this team's no longer elite. This team is not in my opinion, they're not if I look at the standings right now, is this a top 5 team in the West?
Yeah, right here today, and this is another side of the conversation I think is fascinating. Like a lot of local reporters, Jazz fans on Twitter, basically most of the following will tell you, hey, we're 2nd in the West, we're 4th in the West, like we're a top 5 team in the West, we're going to get home court advantage in the postseason and all this great stuff, and it's like the problem is for the Jazz, it's not good enough just to make the postseason anymore. This is like how many times you're just going to make the postseason and then go out, in the first series, or otherwise. It's time to start like pushing. Donovan Mitchell isn't old or anything certainly, but he's not getting younger. You don't get Donovan Mitchell's every single year in the NBA draft. Like you got to take advantage of of guys like Donovan Mitchell while you have them. This is the problem in Portland. They're not taking advantage of Dame and CJ. They don't have enough. And so that's why I say, and that's why I was so upset that they gave Rudy Gobert all this damn money. Like, why would you pay Rudy Gobert all that money even though you know that your roster is limited, even though that you know you're never going to beat the Lakers? That's never going to happen. It's insanity. It's never going to happen, yet you still want to pay Rudy Gobert. Okay, well, don't come crying to me when you get knocked out of the postseason, dude. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. I mean, the Rudy Gobert contract is going to be a weight around your neck. And I look at where they are now. I think, what are the Jazz, 10-4? I look at the top 5 teams in the West. They're separated by essentially 2.5 games. Are the Jazz better than the Suns right now?
No, I think it's extremely close.
I think it's really close.
I think it's extremely close.
And oddly enough, I think that the defining factor there could be on the offensive end for the Suns, DeAndre Ayton's ability to shoot the J.
Yeah.
Because that's going to pull Rudy Gobert away from the basket, and that's going to allow the other weapons on that team to get in the paint. Chris Paul has really evolved his game to a point where he's a dribble penetrator now that's setting up guys like Cam Johnson, that's setting up Devin Booker the other night. You can see that they have a set where CP3 will penetrate and Devin Booker slides to the opposite wing, and he's opened almost three straight possessions on that.
Because the defense collapses.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you're really looking at a maturation factor in the Western Conference where the Jazz are going the opposite direction of where everybody else is going. The Jazz are becoming much more reliant on the three, where if you look up and down the roster, if you look at the LA Clippers, the Clippers are getting away from the three ball.
Yes.
They're trying to get more. That's why that Paul George dunk the other night was so freaking unbelievable.
Yep.
Because he hasn't been that guy since he broke his leg, and all of a sudden he's that guy now. Right? Like, they're really pushing to get to the basket. I look at Portland. It's devastating that C.J. McCallum's out of that lineup.
Yeah.
For a month with a broken foot.
But even look at both of them. Like, a lot of times late in the game, yes, Dame does take a lot of those deep shots, and that's kind of how he's built the logo Lillard kind of branding or whatever. But if you look at their offense and you really watch that team play, they're not predicated on the three. They are a mid-range jump shooting team that oftentimes is getting to the basket and getting fouled. So
right,
like you look at the Lakers. The Lakers are not built on the three. They have guys that can shoot the three. They have guys that can knock the three down, but it's not their entire existence. They have a balance. And so whether it is the Lakers, the Clippers, the Suns, even the Nuggets, I would say, are not built on the three so much. Like, yes, they do shoot quite a bit, but they have balance as well. That's the problem for the Jazz. And I want to make sure people understand like how we're kind of framing this conversation. It's not, hey, the Jazz suck, or like, the Jazz are a bad team. They're not a bad team. They're just not good enough, and that's a huge difference.
Yeah, and I think that conversation is one that's hard for Jazz fans to take. I mean, they're not good enough. They're not elite. Trust me, I know they're 10-4. Again, I think they're second in the West or whatever. I know that. They're not nearly on par. In my opinion, the top 3 teams in the West right now today would be the Lakers, I think the Clippers, the Suns, and I don't know what the Nuggets are right now. I don't. The Nuggets-Jazz rivalry has become heated.
Yeah.
It is one of those games that you have to watch every single time they play, because that rivalry is legit now. So
the Nuggets play the little brother role. They're the annoying ass team that's
agree.
Very gritty. They're good enough to beat you. Not to get off track here, but Trump just rolled up to the airport here, and he looks miserable. I mean, dude looks miserable.
Yeah. Hey, make sure you follow us on the old YouTuber machine. It really helps us. We're at 100 followers now, which is a great a benchmark for us. It's a new channel for us as far as, our live streams. So, adding, 30 something followers, in 2.5 weeks it's quite remarkable. And we appreciate that, but it makes a difference when you follow our channel. So please do that. Find us on YouTube, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. If you're an audio podcast guy, Make sure you search anywhere you get a podcast, The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show. By the way, I was asked why we are still doing Periscope and YouTube Live. Periscope's going away at the end of March. I don't know how long we're going to stay on Periscope, frankly. Certainly by March 31st, we'll be off of Periscope.
Yeah.
For sure. But we will likely make that decision before March 31st, so keep an ear out for that on the show. But we appreciate everywhere you listen, whether it's on YouTube, Periscope, obviously the podcast. Anywhere you want it, search The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show.